Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. I am Gino Buccola alongside Mike Beer with producer Bobby helping us out on this video. Mike, it's one of the best times of the year when we get those past performances for Keeneland. And this is the start of the Keeneland meet. You and I will be previewing the first stakes race of the Keeneland meet that's going to go on Friday, opening day at Keeneland. That's April the 4th. We're going to be taking a look at race number 7. It's the Lafayette Stakes. And in this one, Mike, it's 7 furlong sprint. And we have a couple horses who were really nice debut winners, or some horses who have shown some real ability in their first couple starts here. Horse like Gunmetal was a debut winner with a 96 buyer. Colloquial most recently was a maiden winner with a 106 buyer. You have Touchy, who showed precocity for Wesley Ward. Gate to Wire is a stakes winner. Rolando is a stakes winner. As expected in a race like this at Keeneland, there's some talent in here.
Yeah, 100% correct. I mean, it's not a graded stakes race, but it's got the field of a graded stakes race. The $400,000 purse has a lot to do with that, but there's some real talent in this race.
And as we take a look at the Timeform US Pace Projector, it is worth mentioning at least that where we sit right now on Tuesday as we're recording this, the forecast is not great for Keeneland coming up this week. That'll probably impact the grass races more, but just something worth mentioning when you're doing your handicapping. I don't know about you, Mike. Like we're going to preview the Transylvania as well. It's always difficult to project, like who's going to come out of these races or who might go in. But I always think mention it, and maybe, especially in a race like this, if horses might like an off going or be able to take to it, just keep an eye open for that. What do you think as far as the pace of this race?
It did seem like there's plenty of speed in here, and I'm not going to disagree too hard with this pace projector, Gino, just because I do kind of feel like Gunmetal, just being drawn to the rail. This is a horse who's been in 2 pretty fast-paced races to begin his career. He's got the rail here. It feels like he's kind of under the gun, and I just get the idea that Pratt will be sending this horse out of there.
Completely agree. I think for him, their best chances is to go, hopefully stay out a little bit of a traffic, even if he has to go a little bit faster early on. Let's meet the field for the Lafayette, $400,000 up for grabs, and Gunmetal kicks things off. So coming off of that very good debut win, he goes in the swale. It wasn't a bad effort. We'll be able to show you part of his replay in just a bit when we get to Gate to Wire. He showed some speed in his debut. Then last time out, kind of battling for the lead, was all in early. It was a tough pace, but I will say on paper, Mike, I remember handicapping that race. It looked like the swale on paper had 3 or 4 speed horses, and like the only horse that could come from off the pace a little bit was Gate to Wire. So that race really did set up well for Gate to Wire on paper, and Gunmetal was probably up against it a little bit on paper.
The pace was fast, to be sure, and it's worth noting that Gunmetal, he sort of got bumped a couple of times at the start of that race, and then I think after those bumps, Saez, it seemed like he didn't really get aggressive with this horse, but he still wound up involved on what was a really fast pace in there. Now, listen, he was 4-5 in that race, Gino, and I don't, want to defend his performance too much there, even with the pace and the bumps at the start, because he just didn't run that well in that race, and he's going to have to rebound and run a lot better against this field. But you sort of get the idea based on his debut that he might be able to do that.
Colloquial is the number 2. He debuted, finished second, was beaten a nose. That was back in June of 2024. So he has a long layoff, shows back up on February the 7th. And I believe we have a replay of this one. He has a good start. He was sitting a couple lengths off. He ended up sitting off about 5th, 3 lengths off. And he made a big move, Mike, when he was asked, quickly up to challenge. Then with some slight urging, he went right by the horse who we're seeing here behind him, and that horse came right back to win their next start. What I thought was interesting is the name of that horse was 1900. He earned a 92 buyer speed figure in this race when Colloquial beat him by 7. And then in his next race, he earned a 92 buyer speed figure, but he won that race by 7. So he literally did the same thing, and it just shows you how impressive Colloquial was versus like a normal maiden group that he ends up beating in his next start.
Yeah, it's good. It's good news for Colloquial that we got a sort of a read on that 106 buyer, because 1900 just confirmed it last weekend.
Yep.
At Aqueduct, and he just dominated that field that he beat. So, listen, this horse ran really, really well in his debut behind Menti. Really fast finish in there, into fast fractions once again. And you saw the replay there. I don't think there's too much to say about his effort last time. He smashed that field, and the horse that he beat, seems like he has a chance to be pretty good in his own right. So, listen, there's just nothing to knock about him. He's clearly really, really talented. And if he runs anything like he did last time, this field's in big trouble, Gino. I mean, we already looked at the pace projector. Colloquial has shown twice now that he can sit. He can sit off of a fast pace if he has to, like he did in his debut. Can sit off a slower one like he did last time and still finish.
Even the 7th place finisher came back to win next out a maiden special weight at Aqueduct. That was a very strong race that he exits. I thought the 3 here, Mike, was a little bit interesting and maybe a horse that could be some value because this is a horse who's a Louisiana bred who could be flying under the radar. He's exiting a really live running of the Rebel, though. 3rd in the Rebel was Sandman. He came back to win the Arkansas Derby next out with a 99 buyer. The 5th place finisher in the Rebel, Tistastic, came back to win the Louisiana Derby next out with a 95 buyer. Even Matic, the 4th place finisher, Publisher, came back to finish 2nd in the Arkansas Derby. So we've seen a really live running of the Rebel come back so far. So I'm not going to really hold that race against Smoken Wicked all too much. He was actually pretty close to a fast pace in there too and kind of moved into it. I think cutting back, he could be in a really nice spot. Like, I don't know if he's as good as Colloquial, and I don't know if at the end of the year in a few months he's going to be as good of a horse as them, but he might be a little more seasoned with 9 races overall, right? He's got a little more bottom. I could just see him being right behind the leaders, kind of falling into a good spot and outrunning his odds in here. What do you think about Smokin' Wickham?
I'm not going to disagree with anything that you said. He's a sprinter, first of all, so I don't care about his Rebel at all. He was up close to a fast pace. He finished last in there, but he doesn't want to go that far. He's a sprinter. His sprint races to me are all really good. I think anyway. I get it. You know, the wins 2 and 3 back, they just sort of found, you know, races that he basically could not lose. And he just absolutely dominated those races. He's got to get a little bit faster, but I think he's got the right running style for this. I do think he's a sprinter. I'm with you. I feel like he's just going to sort of get overlooked a little bit in this race. And I'm not convinced that he's totally overmatched in here. He's an interesting horse to use somewhere.
Touchy is proven at Keeneland, but he's just going to have to get faster on the buyer scale, Mike. Like, everything he's run in his entire career is slow. Now, there's some positives. He's going to go 3rd off the bench. You can look at some of the races. I think the cutback is also a positive for him, turning back from a mile and a 16th to 7 furlongs, but he has the 2nd lowest buyer top in the field. And when you even look at the Sunland Derby that he exits last out, Getaway Car, who won, came back and was 4th in the Virginia Derby. Caldera came back and was 8th in Louisiana Derby. He did miss the break there, but that race doesn't even really flatter him a whole lot in this spot.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, listen, if you wanted to tell me he's run twice so far this year and they're pretty easy. He didn't win either time. It's pretty easy to excuse both of them. A synthetic race, and then they tried to stretch him out last time, and it just didn't really work out. So that's all fine. But the fact of the matter remains, he's just got to get a lot faster now as a 3-year-old. This will be his 3rd start of the year. Listen, there was a ton of buzz about this horse as a 2-year-old last year. He debuted in the Tremont at Saratoga. He went off at odds on in a stakes race, and he was just really green as a young horse. It seems like he had a lot of learning to do. We'll see how much he's grown up. He's got to get a lot faster.
Gate to Wire is the next one up. He won the Swale in his first start on the dirt, and following that, he went into the Fountain of Youth. He was only 5-1 that day. I remember thinking that he was really disappointing in Mike. When I watched it back, you know what? Kind of going through the field, he was fit that day. The 4 horses in front of him might just be better horses than him, especially better going a little bit longer. Now he gets the cutback. I think for him, the key is just pace. He seems like a horse who could sit pretty nicely off the pace, get a trip if they go fast enough early on in here. Top 4 finishers of the Fountain of Youth: Sovereignty, River Thames, Neo Equus. I just think those are all better horses than him. Where do you think Gate to Wire stacks up with this group?
I mean, I think he stacks up pretty well. And this is the race that you were talking about earlier.
The Swale, right?
The Swale, back, yeah. And where they went a fast pace, and here he's, you know, just sort of moving to the lead. And here, your point is pretty well taken. You know, when you laid it out earlier, when we were talking about Gunmetal, you talked about the pace that this horse had to run into, which was a fast one. I would also just point out that it's not like Gate to Wire was a million lengths behind that pace. I mean, he just sat right in behind those horses, and he won that race, I thought, really, really impressively. His Fountain of Youth, to me, you know, listen, maybe those horses are just better than him, but he's another horse who I would just say he's a sprinter, man. I think he showed in the Fountain of Youth he doesn't really want to go that far. He got really tired in the final furlong. Cutting back works for him. He kind of showed that he could handle dirt 2 starts back. He's a pretty talented horse, and he's a tactical one at that. He's got some things going for him in here.
Yeah, I think so too. A good fit in this spot. Itsmybirthday as a horse who he ran his first 2 starts over at Turf Paradise for Robertino Diodoro. And off of that, they took a shot in the Sunland Derby. And I do think there's some legitimate talent with this horse, Mike. Like, I think he might even be better than his first couple speed figures would suggest. but I just have no idea how to stack up where those races at Turf Paradise will compare with a group like this, because he got overmatched by Getaway Car and Caldera in that race where I was just talking about they didn't really come back out of that race and run well against legitimate graded stakes company.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, he's another horse you could just say, well, he didn't want to go that far last time, so don't hold it against him. He gets to cut back to sprint here again, and it'll make a difference. I think to me, the main difference with this horse is he has way more to prove than either Gate to Wire or
Absolutely.
Gunmetal do. They're the other horses cutting back or dropping into maybe a better spot here. I mean, listen, I'm not knocking the first two starts. He was visually impressive. He's another horse who's just got to get faster.
Jose Ortiz jumps aboard. That's always got to be a positive there. One True Chance has won 3 of his 4 starts, but just kind of looking at who he faced last time out, right? He beat a horse named Dapper Moon. Dapper Moon has been in 2 Louisiana bred stakes races since and ran 3rd and 6th as the heavy favorite in those races. So while I want to give One True Chance credit because winning 3 out of 4 is not easy, it just feels like this group is a lot tougher than what he's been facing. He's also going to have to go a little bit longer, probably deal with some other speed in here. So I just think he's going to get an acid test in here, Mike.
I agree. I mean, I like the progression to be sure. He's sort of improving every time he goes out there to run. And there's nothing wrong with taking a shot in a stakes race with a horse who's in really good form, and it feels like One True Chance is in really good form. He's just looks like he's found a really, really tough race here, Gino. I mean, I really respect Eddie Keneally. He is not a guy who races his horses over their heads. If he doesn't feel like they can compete, he won't enter them in stakes races. So maybe it's a good sign, man, but this is a tough spot.
Rolando rounds out the field. This one is the Hutchinson winner most recently. He's raced 6 times in his career, and he's won 3 of them. I think we have a replay of the Hutchinson last time out, and he was able to sit off a little bit, Mike, and move to the front end. He sat 3 deep with right off the couple leaders. He took over easily. Now he's 3 for 3 at 6 furlongs. He's 0 for 3 beyond 6 furlongs, and he's going 7 furlongs here. But if he needs to sit, being drawn to the outside is very helpful, and it probably won't get forced, and he can kind of get into the race at his own speed. What do you think about Rolando with this group?
I'm just worried that this pace will be a little fast for him to have to deal with. I do think he's talented, but this pace is going to be fast, and I think he is the kind of horse who wants to race up close, Gino. I know it's, going back to December when they ran him that 7 furlong race in the allowance, but man, he went a really, really moderate pace that day, and he just could not hold on to a clear stretch lead. That was really disappointing. Maybe he's just a lot better now, but I would make him prove it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I respect him, but at 7 furlongs, other pace, maybe get a little wide, couple knocks against him. So let's take a look at the selections as we round out this field, Mike. Who did you want to stack up on top here in the Lafayette?
I just think Colloquial is a really good horse, Gino. I looked at it initially last night, and I was thinking, I could take a shot against this horse. He's coming off of a maiden win, and maybe he'll need one. The more I looked at it, the more I just think this horse, he has a chance to be really good. I don't think I want to bet against him in here. I put Gate to Wire second. I think your top pick is a really interesting horse. I just couldn't quite get there.
Yeah, and we have the same top 3, just in slightly different order. And we both kind of think that maybe the 3 is where you could get some value if you're someone who plays exacted tries, or if you're someone who is playing multi-exotics and spreading out in this race looking for some value. That could be one to include Gate to Wire in the mix for the both of us. But however you play, whoever you play, we wish you the best of luck on opening day at Keeneland.